Well, I always felt Downton Abbey could have benefited from buckets of blood, battle axes, shotguns and crossbows. Hi, I'm Danny Quinn, and welcome to another episode of First Impressions. On today's episode, Samara Weaving goes through the honeymoon from hell in Ready or Not. The movie's about Grace, played by Samara Weaving, a young woman who's just married Alex Ladomas, played by Mark O'Brien, and is introduced to her new in-laws, including Alex's brother Daniel, played by Adam Brody, sister Emily, played by Melanie Scrofano, the family's patriarch Tony, played by Henry Czerny, the family's matriarch Becky, played by Andie MacDowell, and the Ladomas' caustic aunt, played by Nikki Godagny, along with Daniel's wife Charity, played by Elise Levesque, and Emily's husband Fitch Bradley, played by Christian Brun. At the stroke of midnight, Grace is inducted into a rather treacherous game of hide and seek, as her in-laws try to hunt her down, and she must find a way to survive the night and turn the tables on her not-so-lovable relatives. Ready or Not is the new film from Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, who are both part of the filmmaking trio Radio Silence, and have previously contributed to the anthology films VHS and Southbound, but are also mainly known for the film Devil's Due, which despite poor reviews has garnered something of a cult following over the years, and even has prominent support from horror filmmaker Eli Roth. But their latest effort, Ready or Not, is something of an oddity. It's being made by 20th Century Fox under their Fox Searchlight label, known more for quirky indie-based movies, and it's also being released in the aftermath of the Fox-Disney merger, a time where Disney seems to be actively clamping down hard on Fox and basically prioritising big blockbuster properties over little movies like this. And with a movie like Ready or Not, I'm really hoping that it'll give Disney some food for thought. The movie doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel, it's basically an updated take on The Most Dangerous Game, and I can also kind of see elements of Get Out and Clue in this film as well. And just like I said in the intro, the setting kind of reminds me a little bit of a contemporary version of Downton Abbey. It's a pretty standard premise, but it's executed with so much skill, flair, and energy that I just can't help but love it. Ready or Not might honestly be one of the best horror movies I've seen this year. So much of this movie works excellently. The writing is sharp and witty, with a rather biting, cascading critique of privilege and family values, tons of foreshadowing that will reward repeat viewings. It's suspenseful and visceral as all hell, and I also really enjoyed how ambiguous most of the character motivations in this movie are. When the film begins, most of the family members really seem to take a liking to Grace, and what's interesting is that you're never really sure whether that's just them trying to lull her into a false sense of security, or whether they all genuinely like her, but are blindsided by their own greed and obsession with tradition. The Ladomas family is probably one of the most dysfunctional families I've seen in any horror movie since the Armitage family in Get Out. The daughter's a coke addict, one of their sons is an apathetic alcoholic, the aunt's a crazy nutcase obsessed with carrying out this ritual, and the sister's husband just wants to get the hell out of here and doesn't really take the games all that seriously. The interactions between the family members is probably one of the best aspects of the movie, as it's where the movie manages to mine out most of its humour. There's a running gag throughout the movie where Emily keeps offing the maids and is an all-around lousy shot with whatever weapon she uses, and the movie also mines a lot of humour out of her husband being completely in over his head with a crossbow. And then there's also Aunt Helene, who's always throwing shade at people and looking like she's just gonna murder you at any given chance. She practically steals the film every time she's on screen with that fucking stare of hers. But in general, the Ladomas family is a very entertaining group of psychotic villains, always walking a fine line between being funny, slightly incompetent, and still very much holding their own and posing a credible threat. But the real star of the movie is easily Samara Weaving, having already made brief but memorable appearances in films like 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and also carving out a particular niche for herself as a B-movie star in films like The Babysitter and Mayhem. Weaving is an absolutely formidable presence and makes for a fantastic heroine. Likeable, witty, and a total badass, she's constantly on the defense and you're always rooting for her, even when the odds are so badly stacked against her. Grace probably isn't the most fleshed out character out there, but Weaving does elevate the role considerably, and shows that she can exhibit naivete, attitude, wit, fear, and insanity all in the same film. She's got quite a lot of range and a ton of potential to show in future roles if this movie is anything to go by. It's also a very suspenseful and creepy film in places. Like I said earlier, this movie is visceral as hell. Even though the emphasis is placed more on entertainment and bloody thrills than outright horror, that doesn't mean the horror element is lacking in any departments. There's so many great scenes of suspense and tension that are all executed brilliantly. The radio silence duo really show a lot of skill in building up a sense of unease and balancing out the horror and comedy almost effortlessly. Now this is a part I would probably go into any issues I may have had with the film, and honestly, I didn't really have very many. Like, it's not perfect by any means. It is very, very gory and probably a little overly gory for some people's liking, but that's really about it. Those really feel more like nitpicks than anything particularly wrong with it. This movie really just hit the sweet spot for me. Ready or Not is a bloody good horror comedy and probably one of the best examples of taking a typical concept and executing it excellently with an awesome cast, sharp and clever writing, pitch black humour, and so much tension that I was genuinely on the edge of my seat for much of its 90-minute running time. I'm gonna give Ready or Not a strong 8 out of 10. Look, I know I've been giving that score to a lot of movies recently, but I just can't help it. I feel like I've seen a lot of really good stuff as of late. If you haven't seen it and you're looking for a fun, scary movie to watch over the month of October, please give it a watch. Like I've said before, I really want to make sure I do my bit to support smaller, independent movies like this, especially with Disney kind of tightening their grip over Fox. Seeing movies like this become hits would definitely give them a little bit of food for thought. So Ready or Not, have you seen it yet? If so, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you once again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe to my channel while you're at it. Don't forget to hit the bell icon if you're already subscribed. That way you'll be notified whenever a new video is out. If there's anything I can do to improve my presentation, do let me know. I'm always happy to hear feedback as long as it's somewhat constructive. If you want to follow me on social media or support me on Patreon, or links are below down in the description. And until next time, I'm Danny Quinn, and I hope you have a pleasant evening.